Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this, because today we're unpacking what has to be one of the most profound, frankly baffling mysteries of the ancient world. When you think of ancient Egypt, an immediate image pops into your head, right? The Great Pyramid of Giza. It's a monument of just staggering scale, an architectural marvel that has literally defined human achievement for millennia. But what do we actually know about the mind behind the masterpiece, the pharaoh who commissioned the whole thing? His name was Khufu. And as it turns out, the man himself is a massive puzzle that historians and archaeologists have been trying to piece together for centuries. And this brilliantly illustrates the central irony we're dealing with here. Think about it. On one hand, you have the Great Pyramid, originally standing at a towering 481 feet with a massive 750 by 750-foot base. It was, quite literally, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. But then, look at the stark contrast on the flip side. A tiny 3-inch ivory figurine. That little carving is the only completely preserved three-dimensional portrait of Khufu that has survived intact. I mean, it's wild. The builder of the ancient world's most famous, colossal monument left almost no physical trace of his own face behind. It's just an incredible paradox. Which brings us to Section 1, the ultimate paradox. So how exactly does a 4th dynasty pharaoh, a guy ruling over an incredibly complex society, become a ghost completely overshadowed by his own tomb? Well, let's start with his name. While we all know him today mostly as Khufu, his full birth name was actually Khnum Khufu, which translates to Khnum protects me. Now, during this era, Egyptian pharaohs were aggressively trying to accentuate their divine origins. By dedicating his official cartouche name to Khnum, who was the Egyptian god of creation and growth, Khufu was essentially elevating his own status. He wasn't just a king, he was aligning himself as a divine creator on Earth. Yet, intriguingly, he dropped that explicit divine connection later on, going by just Khufu. Why? Honestly, it's a puzzle that Egyptologists are still trying to figure out today.
Let's move on to Section 2, the real Khufu.
Let's strip away all the myth for a second and look at the hard, tangible archaeological facts we actually possess about his life in the 26th century BC. 4,500. That is the age in years of an absolute game-changer of a discovery, a collection of papyrus fragments found at the ancient Red Sea port of Wadi el-Jarf. Discovered fairly recently, these documents are known as the Diary of Merer, and they are groundbreaking because they finally pull Khufu out of the realm of myth and ground him firmly into a vivid human reality.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that these aren't some grandiose religious texts or magical prophecies. Not at all. These are daily administrative logs. Merer was an official, and his diary literally just tracks the mundane logistics of building the Great Pyramid. The big takeaway for us here is how this completely proves the existence of a highly organized, functioning state machinery operating in real time. We get this super tangible glimpse into the central administration sending food and supplies to wharf workers and sailors, right in the 27th year of Khufu's reign. It takes this mythic, untouchable figure and makes him the head of a very real, very busy government.
Section 3. The royal family tree.
To really understand Khufu, we have to look at who he surrounded himself with. Unpacking his lineage reveals a really complex grip on power. His parents were most likely the great builder Pharaoh Sneferu and Queen Hetepheres I. But here is a truly fascinating little detail. Researchers have noted that Hetepheres didn't carry the standard king's wife title. Instead, she was officially called daughter of his divine body. Some experts actually suspect Khufu might not have been Sneferu's biological son at all. Rather, they think Sneferu legitimized Khufu's rank by marrying into this divine lineage. By basically apotheosizing his mother, Khufu's absolute royal rank was completely locked in. From there, he went on to have several key wives like Meritites I and Honutzen, and a vast network of children, with Jetefre and Khafre eventually succeeding him on the throne.
Section 4. Building Khufu's horizon. So Khufu essentially moved his entire necropolis to the Giza Plateau just to secure a highly visible location for his pet project, originally called Akhet Khufu, or Khufu's Horizon. And to pull this off, the sheer logistics required were staggering. As we mentioned, the base alone was a massive 750 by 750 feet, and originally the whole thing was encased in finely polished, nearly white limestone that would have just shimmered blindingly in the Egyptian sun. Inside, the engineering is just as mind-blowing. The builders utilized a corbelled arch ceiling in the 28.7-foot-high Grand Gallery. Now, this wasn't just decorative, it was a completely crucial static innovation that diverted the crushing weight of millions of tons of stone away from the king's chamber. And remarkably, all of this intense precision cutting was achieved using tools made of hard arsenical copper and bronze. No modern machinery, just brilliant engineering. Let's move on and see how this builds, because this incredible monument required a massive multinational supply chain. Khufu wasn't just directing guys stacking stones, he was operating like the CEO of an empire, which is crucial for understanding how capable this society really was. First off, he sent expeditions to the Sinai Peninsula just to mine the copper and turquoise they needed for tools and wealth. Second, he established trade contacts as far away as Byblos to secure precious Lebanon cedar wood, essential for building those massive funerary boats. And third, all these immense supplies were seamlessly organized and transported via strategic ports like Wadi al-Jarf on the Red Sea. He was, without a doubt, a total master of grand-scale logistics. Which brings us to Section 5, the tyrant myth. Okay, so how on earth did a pharaoh who organized such a thriving, capable society become remembered as a cruel tyrant? Well, Khufu's reputation went through an unbelievable transformation. Think of it like an ancient multi-millennia game of telephone. During the Old Kingdom, he was completely revered. I mean, he had an extensive mortuary cult with at least 67 priests dedicated to him, way more than his predecessors. But then, jump forward to the 5th century BC, and the Greek historian Herodotus brands him a heretic and a cruel tyrant. And it keeps going. By the time we reach the Middle Ages, Arab historians have transformed him into a mythic king named Sarid, who supposedly built the pyramids just to protect his wisdom and treasures from a prophesied global flood. But it's really the Greek perspective where this tyrant myth firmly takes root. Herodotus boldly wrote, and I quote, "Cheops became king over them and brought them to every kind of suffering, forced all the Egyptians to work for him." He even went so far as to claim that 100,000 men were oppressed at a time just to build this monument, painting a super dramatic picture of an arrogant, heartless dictator who even dared to close the temples. So the crucial point is that this tyrant narrative actually tells us much more about the Greeks and later cultures than it does about Khufu himself. You see, the Greeks, steeped in their own philosophies, were often deeply repulsed by what they saw as megalomaniac monuments. Furthermore, archaeologists note an interesting absence. There are 0 surviving reliefs showing Khufu offering to the gods, which is probably what sparked those later rumors of heresy. Even other ancient historians, like Diodorus, recognize this bias, calling Herodotus' claims outright fairy tales. And in a fascinating linguistic twist, the later Coptic pronunciation of the hieroglyphs for Khufu translated to Shifet, which literally means bad luck or sinful. So even the changing language seemed to curse his memory. Let's wrap things up with Section 6, a legacy set in stone. Let's bring this whole story full circle, right back to that central paradox of his missing physical legacy. Remember that tiny ivory statue from the beginning? Its actual discovery is just as dramatic as the pharaoh's shifting legacy. Found in 1903 by the famous archaeologist Flinders Petrie in Abydos, it was actually pulled from the ground completely headless. Petrie realized the immense historical value of what he'd found, immediately halted all other work, offered a reward to his crew, and had his workers rigorously sift through the dirt. It took 3 intense weeks of sifting before that tiny head was finally recovered. But, the mystery gets even better. Modern experts, including Zaki Hawass, argue that the squat facial features and the specific style of the flail he's holding point to the statue actually being an artistic reproduction made centuries later as a simple lucky charm. Meaning, we may not possess a single contemporary, true-to-life portrait of Khufu at all. It leaves us with a truly profound historical paradox. Khufu built a structure meant to last for eternity, and in doing so, the sheer gravity of the Great Pyramid completely eclipsed the human being who ordered its construction. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. When history forgets the man but memorializes the monument, who really owns the legacy? Thank you so much for exploring this ancient mystery with me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.